Oh, hey neighbor, we've had an exciting week here at Hoss and around South Georgia, all up and down the East Coast. We've had some major storms. Look here, today we're going to talk about not gardening, but hurricane preparedness, because we've had some enlightening moments in the last few days on some things we weren't prepared for. Also, some of our staff, we talked to them and we talked about what things were you not prepared for. So we're going to dig in today on storms, hurricane preparedness, or just maybe emergency preparedness, some of the things that we did not know we were prepared for that may help you in the future. Welcome to the Row by Row Gardening Show, the best dadgum gardening show on the internet, where we talk about gardening, a little bit of cooking, and growing your own food. Now sit back and enjoy. Well, just to catch everybody up, the hurricane shifted there at the last moment when she came through here, and we was on the good side of it. So we didn't get near as much damage as we anticipated. We lost power for just a few hours.
Well, that was 24 hours, wasn't it?
Close to it, yeah. And but the biggest thing is we lost cell service and internet service for only until Sunday afternoon. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3.5 days we didn't have any communication whatsoever. That was probably the shocker for me. Now, we have some employees here that live to the east of us that got really hit hard. And most of the communities to the east of us got hammered. Now, I'm talking about 30 to 45 minutes away. So,
yeah, Carrie, our marketing director, lives in Valdosta. It's been on the news a good bit. Actually, Trump went there yesterday. Was hit really hard. It looks like a war zone. Yeah,
and just amazing. It's just that small of amount. In the county we live in, one side of the county got hit pretty hard, the other side of the county did pretty well. That's just how small of an area can make a huge difference with these storms like these hurricanes. This hurricane here was extremely far-reaching, though. Our daughter lives in Dayton, Ohio, and they even got their power knocked out for a few hours. This thing was huge, and we know Tennessee and North Carolina just got hammered. I talked to our strawberry grower this morning. They fared okay. We said they got a lot of rain, but they fared okay. But our heart goes out to our people up there in all in Georgia and Florida and North Carolina and Tennessee. We got friends in Asheville that we're trying to reach out to, and we've not heard back from them. I know their power's gone. We hope and pray everybody is safe up there, because we know it's been terrible. But we want to talk about what we have learned through these storms. We've been through a couple of them. So things that we did not understand. Now, we feel like for the most part, we've done a good job.
Yeah, I didn't panic at all, because I knew we had food, we had water, we had a way to cook outside. I didn't panic at all before, but now after it happened, the communication issue, I couldn't get a hold of my mother or my sister, and that put me into a little tizzy. And we have a landline, and I have an old phone that I can hook up to it, and I've always felt secure because I had the landline. Well, all the landlines were out.
One of the things we did not expect was loss of communication, and I say communication all the way around. We was cut off. Now, I'm not going to make more of this what it was. There's people that was fared a lot worse than what we did. We just simply trying to share with you our experience so we know what to do next time to expect different. But the lines of communication were completely cut off. We couldn't communicate at all till Sunday afternoon unless we went to town. Now, we did make a trip to town a couple of times just to be able to catch up on texts and text our family and other people and tell them we were fine. But from here where we live up to about 7 miles in town, zero communication.
And even in town, it was spotty.
We're talking about no news, not being able, you couldn't even text your neighbor. So everything was cut off. To me, that was probably the most, I didn't anticipate that.
Yeah, the news thing is we don't have cable TV and we don't have local stations. And since the internet was out, we couldn't stream anything. You couldn't look at anything on your phone. So we were literally, and as everybody else was, and some still are, cut off. Like, we had no idea what was going on in North Carolina.
We didn't have a clue. My friend had texted me the day of the hurricane, the day before the hurricane, asked him if we was okay. And I said, sure, we're fine. And then I texted her after I realized that when in North Carolina, I've not heard back, but I'm sure their means of communication is probably not that as well. So let's talk about communications just for a minute. Now, the night before the hurricane, we had a huge tornado come over our house and place of business that we didn't realize at that time. Some of our neighbors caught it on camera and got pictures of it. It didn't touch down, but went over the top of us. Now, we had power at the moment, and our emergency signals went off on our phones to alert us something bad was happening. We never did know it, but the phones did work. But what if the next day that would have happened? Our phones were out, useless, and we had no means of communication. That's where this little baby right here comes in extremely handy. This is a emergency weather radio. Now, I bought this a few months ago because I went through this period probably about 3 months ago of trying to make sure we was in good shape in case something did happen. This one's solar powered. You can wind it up, runs off battery, runs on lithium, rechargeable, all that kind of stuff. These things are less than $100. So this is a Midland right here. I looked at the reviews on it, and we bought this right here. Now, this I would highly recommend, but the fact of the matter is you need to have it turned on for it to work. We never did turn it on because we really didn't have a need for it at the time because our weather turned off pretty after the hurricane and we were fine. But we could have turned it on and listened to some music if we'd wanted to. But if the weather had been bad,
and the local stations, radio stations.
If the weather would have been bad and we'd had some tornadoes coming in after it knocked that off our cell service, this would have been a lifesaver right there for that. So this is one thing you definitely need in your house if you don't have one, is an emergency radio that works off several different modes of action, whether it be solar, wind up, or rechargeable battery, or whatever. So I'm glad I made that purchase there. We kept this in the house real handy, easy. Got a flashlight on the end of it. So that's one thing I was proud that we had here. We didn't use it, but we knew we had it if we needed it right there. So let's talk about some things that you definitely need that people may be aware of. We're going to go down a little short list of some things you've probably heard of before, but we know it even better now. And then we're going to touch on some things that you probably never thought about because we never thought about it till we got in that situation. Mm-hmm. All right.
So you need to have a plan if bad weather's coming. Touch base with your family, know where they're at, try to have some type of plan to get in touch with each other and check on each other.
And that may be that you can't get in touch with them, so like we were.
Keep you an emergency kit with supplies for your home and for your car. Water.
Yeah, this is a touchy one.
Yeah, so I always, before, even when it's a hurricane that they're not saying is going to be bad, I always fill up I've got about 6-gallon jugs that I put in the refrigerator, so we'll have drinkable water. We do have a pool, so we can get water out of there to flush the toilets. I always freeze these big bowls of ice, so that will help keep your freezer cold longer, and you can also stick those in your refrigerator to keep your refrigerator cool.
Another thing I did too is I laid out water next to my bathroom just to have water to brush your teeth with. So you need water out there. Now, I really get hung up on this thing, people going crazy buying bottled water. I don't understand that, and I think that's one thing people really need to get away from. Even make it a point to yourself not to even worry about buying bottled water, because buying bottled water or panicking over buying bottled water to me is one of the most stupidest things I've ever heard of. You've got water at your disposal to put up for ahead of time so that you don't need to worry about going to the grocery store and then being all sold out and you panicking about that. So bottled water to me, you shouldn't even be in your plan. You should have water put up in bulk so that you can use for drinking or whatever like that. But we see people panic on bottled water, and I just don't get that. I think that's part of the mindset that you need to get out of.
Yeah.
Another problem on water, let me touch on this right here, and this is one that caught me off guard. I didn't have water put up to water my plants in my greenhouse. Now, I know this may sound kind of stupid, but I couldn't. I was near about to the point I was going to have to let my plants in my greenhouse grow because I didn't think about putting water up that. Most of you guys out there are like us. You have some sort of livestock. Also, we need to put water up for them as well. I didn't think about that. Now, our horses were fine because they got a creek down there, and we got 10 inches rain, so there was plenty of water. But my chickens, Thankfully, I filled the water trough up before the hurricane, but I would not have had water to get to them. Now, if we got water out of the pool, it would have been salt treated. It might have been okay, but it wouldn't have been the same thing as fresh water. So one thing we're probably going to do is do some type of rainwater capture in some tanks going forward. That's going to be a great idea, something that I never thought I would be interested in. But capturing rainwater and being able to hold it in a good way that keeps that water fresh works really good for those things that you never think about.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you collect the rainwater, you need to boil it before you use it.
Have a plan. They got things you can put in there. You
all
can
kind of filters.
Clorox, whatever. That is a strategy you can use to keep that water fresh. But that's definitely something on our agenda that we didn't really think about.
Food. We feel pretty good about food. You need... let me go back to water. There was something I wanted to say.
While you're doing that, I'm going to talk about the food thing just for a second. The food thing, we laid out some frozen food and that we got by with for a day or two, but you really need some type of ready-to-eat canned food, like fish, canned salmon, or canned trout or whatever, things like that. I had a little bit. I didn't have as much on hand as I should have. I did realize that after the fact there. You need ready to eat some type of canned food, a good supply of that, because even if you have those frozen foods in your freezer, by the time you go in there and open them up 2 or 3 times to get that out, you've negated the fact and lost a lot of that cooling power in your freezer. So I don't think frozen food is a great idea to rely on, but canned food is something that we probably should have done a better job on.
Back to the water. You need 1 gallon per person per day for several days.
For survival. Now, I did read somewhere it was 13 gallons per day for hygiene and other things like that. So 13 gallons per day to be comfortable, or a gallon a day just to survive.
Yeah, and remember, you always fill up your bathtub with water to flush your toilets.
Yep.
Yeah. Some things that you touched on just a little bit. Don't buy canned food that you wouldn't normally eat. Don't go panic and just fill your buggy up with canned food. Make sure it's something you would normally eat.
And I love the canned, I've been ordering canned smoked salmon off the internet. It's kind of expensive, but I've been using it, and I buy a particular brand, a smoked trout, believe it or not, rainbow trout that I love. You just pop it open, eat it with some crackers. I eat it for lunch all the time.
Canned juices, that's 100% fruit juice. Crackers, peanut butter is really good, good source of protein. Beans, and I didn't buy any food.
We didn't even go to the grocery store, did we? For a particular reason?
I took my grandmother that Wednesday to get her groceries and get her set up. And the last place we went was the Dollar General. And to get her a flashlight, and they were sold out of flashlights. She's 97 and lives by herself right behind my mother and sister. And she wouldn't leave her mobile home.
Right.
And she didn't have a flashlight, so we got her, she bought a bunch of canned salmon.
Yeah.
And she was fine. They didn't have any damage. And so once your power goes out, a thing I read, which was interesting to me, was first you want to eat your fresh food that you have. Fruits, vegetables, food from the refrigerator while it's still cold. Next, eat your frozen food. And finally, then move on to your emergency and canned foods. So don't eat your canned foods first. Eat your fresh foods. That's going to ruin.
One of the guys that works here that got hit pretty hard, he had stocked up on some of these ReadyWise freeze-dried meals. But he said he didn't have to get into it, but he was fixing to have to get into that. But he has an emergency supply of those freeze-dried. Now, we got some of it that we've done.
I've got a lot of chicken and a lot of freeze-dried stuff that we could have lived on.
Medical supplies. Now, this is a good one right here because you actually are diabetic. You have to have insulin. So you need to make sure that you got enough of that and you can keep it cool so it doesn't go bad. Me, I just take a little bit of cholesterol medicine. I could have done without mine. But if you have major medical problems, you need to make sure you have a strategy of keeping that medicine in stock, maybe a 7 to 14 day supply. Also keeping it cool if you have to keep it cool.
Yeah. Another problem I had was I have a CPAP. that I literally cannot sleep without it. And so the one night that we didn't have power, I kind of struggled with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have any problems with that right there. So those are just some general things. Now we had a generator. We got a little small generator I bought a year or two ago, and I got my thoughts on generators because there's going to be a gazillion generators for sale here before long. Generators are wonderful, but if they don't run at the time you need them, they're worthless. And most people have generators and they let them sit up, and when it's time to use them, they go out there and pull the cord and they don't crank, and you can't carry it and get it fixed. Now for some reason or another, about 3 weeks ago, when I got my generator out and got it cranked and got it running and serviced it and everything, it was fine. So when we needed our generator, pulled on it and cranked it up, and that got us out of a tie, having a generator. But just because you got a generator doesn't mean necessarily it's going to crank when you need it, because you know these gases we have nowadays can cause problems with them, or they can just sit there and something can happen. A motor that's not cranked very regular will go bad on you. I can tell you from experience. So make sure that you have a plan of action to keep that generator maybe once a month when you change your air filter in your house, whatever, go out there and crank it and have it going. Now we've talked about all this today as hurricanes. As you know, you got something coming. So we anticipated what was going to happen. But what if you had another type of emergency that you didn't anticipate? Well, what you're telling you today is these things you need to be prepared for at any given time, because something could happen and we have the same situation that we had, cut off from power. Maybe you got some bad weather coming in all of a sudden. Anything could happen, and you need to be ready. Like
those people in South Carolina that...
Well, North Carolina, they didn't know what they had coming.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't projected to do that, and I'm sure they were not prepared.
So emergency preparedness is not only preparing in advance, but staying prepared.
Yeah. Other things you want, of course, the flashlight, matches that are waterproof, a whistle in case you get stuck and to let people know where you're at. Photocopies of your identification, your insurance, your credit cards, and you can simply, I have this on my phone because I could get to my photos on my phone.
Well, what if your power was out on your phone? That would be an issue.
Yeah, you need to have a way to...
You have a backup plan there.
Yeah, and you can go...
I should have brought them, but I got these little Pelican boxes I bought that I kind of stocked up all this stuff in. And I can just grab these little waterproof boxes and have a lot of that stuff in.
But you can always, if you have a vehicle, charge your phone in your vehicle. Pet supplies, really important to have.
Grill for cooking, have a gas stove, have plenty of propane. I think we keep about 15 of those bottles on hand all the time. I'm not a fan of the little green bottles, but the big, I think they're like 15-gallon ones, the ones you go to the grocery store and swap out. I try to keep 3 or 4 of those. We try to keep charcoal so we can grill outside. We actually, Friday afternoon, kind of set up outside. Some of the neighbors came over and we grilled all out there for everybody. One thing I want to touch on is community. So in these situations that you have where you cut off everybody else, you got to rely on community a lot, because that's the only people you're really going to come in contact with. I'm not necessarily talking about you all that are in town that's got neighbors one after another, but us people that live in these rural communities out here, we may have neighbors, but they're not real close by. But when these type of situations happen, we rely on one another a lot. So make sure that you know these people. We actually are real close to all of our neighbors, and we had them all over and we all ate together. Pretty much all of them. Friday afternoon. We just cooked one time, everybody ate. But make sure that you have some type of relationship with those people so that you can call on one another, because you'll be surprised how you're going to need them or they're going to need you in these situations.
They may have something you don't have. You can barter, share.
Right.
So what's some other things that the staff said?
All right. So I went through the staff and asked them.
And we asked our neighbors.
All right. So I've touched on the things for me was community, rainwater collection, canned foods to eat, and these is 2 more things. This was on my list. Number 1 is cash. This was weird, folks, but the internet being down and cell phone service and all being down here for several days is none of the businesses in town would take anything but cash. If you did not have cash, you couldn't get gas, you couldn't get groceries, you couldn't get anything to eat, whatever. I went to our little store, local store, once they got power back, and they had, you could get $40 worth of gas, I believe, but you had to go inside, pay them the $40, come back outside, and they would give you gas. So cash was king. Make sure that you have enough cash on hand, because these debit and credit cards are useless in these situations. I know some people that got hung out didn't have cash. We thankfully had enough put up. Cash is king in a situation like that. That's one thing we probably didn't see, and a lot of people didn't see. The other one is mindset. I want to touch on this one just for a minute. A lot of people really stress out and they get themselves worked up in these situations because they may not have something, bottled water or just anything, and they go in this panic mode and they can't do anything till they get this. So they go to store to store to store, or they're traveling too much. The main thing is to realize in those situations, you may not have everything to keep you as comfortable as you was before, but try to keep a good mindset and not panic, and try to be comfortable in your head. And I think that goes a long way by having a survivor mentality instead of a panic mentality. That's one of the main things we need to work on in these situations, is mentality and having a survivor mentality.
And if you're prepared, you're more likely to.
The fact of the matter is, you're not going to have everything that you want, but you're going to have to understand we're going to do fine with what we are and be at peace with it. Mm-hmm. All right. So I asked the girl that was in probably the worst part of this, and their biggest thing was, and they was out of power for several days, gas. They was not prepared with gas. They had a generator, brand new generator. I checked on them before the storm. I said, Carol, y'all doing okay? She said, we just got a new generator. I said, oh, that's great. But what they was not prepared for was running that generator for several days with gas. They got by till about Saturday or Sunday, and then they run out of gas. When they ran out of gas, everybody else was out of gas in this big community. The gas stations were either closed down or there was a huge line. You couldn't get up there. They had to travel about 45 minutes to an hour to another town to try to find gas cans, because they didn't have enough gas cans and gas. So that's one thing they was not prepared for, is having enough gas cans. Who thought gas cans? But you got to have gas cans to move gas or gas. And if you think about this right here, I got a friend of mine that's in the gas distribution business, which they deliver the gas. They were out of power and they were out of communication. So they didn't even know how to distribute the gas that they had, because they had no communications. That was another thing too. So when you really think about how deep this thing can get, it can get deep. You got your gas stations that may not have power, but then you got your companies that distribute that gas, don't have any communications to get it there. Right. And that's kind of the situation we've been in, or was in here.
Yeah, and we went and filled up all our vehicles with gas.
Beforehand.
Beforehand.
And we was okay. All right, and I asked Cameron about this one right here. He didn't have a generator. He said the one thing he would have going forward would be a generator. But he brought up another point here that really hit home with me, because I wasn't prepared for this one. A transfer switch. So when we went to hook our generators up, a lot of times we would hook them up to a freezer, because we got several freezers or a refrigerator. But the problem is our freezer or refrigerator was loaded, and when we installed this, we plugged it up behind it and we pushed that appliance in there. Well, now I'm trying to hook up to that thing and the cord is behind it. I can't pull it out because it's so heavy. We don't want to open it because we're going to lose what cooling power we have in there. So we had this problem right here. I had a heck of a time trying to get the cords out to hook up to the generator. Going forward, we will have a transfer switch on the outside of the house so we can transfer to a generator. This is one of the biggest things here. I don't care whether you get a generator or not. I'm going to probably look into getting a generator for our house, but even if we don't get a generator, you need to have that transfer switch wired in so that you can hook a generator up to your house. That was huge for me. That was probably one of the biggest ones that I realized we was not prepared for, is how do you hook these things up? Mm-hmm. Sounds simple, don't it? You just take a generator and hook it into your refrigerator, but if you can't get to your cord on your refrigerator or your freezer, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we will have a transfer switch so that we can be prepared. If you got a generator and it doesn't crank, you can move another generator in and hook it up to that transfer switch and be fine. But those transfer switches are huge. So that's the two things that we got from our people that was in the midst of the storm, said that they was not prepared for.
Let's talk a little bit about garden prep.
Yep.
If you know you've got something like that coming.
Those things that's going to fly away, get them and put them up,
yeah,
or strap them down.
It says de-decorate your garden. I I have a lot of decoration in my potager garden that I had to make sure you have water source for your plants, which I did not, but all the rain took care of it. Stake your tall plants if you can. Mulch your beds and walkways with straw to protect the roots.
And the washing. You had a little bit of washing in your potager garden, not as much as I thought with 10 inches of rain.
Yeah, we had 10 inches of rain, and it was really interesting to see where that water, now I know where
Another
I need
thing
to fix.
too, I had a friend that's got one of these huge concrete, you know what I'm talking about, you put this kind of goes up, these concrete bird things, and he went out there and strapped it down with straps, because he said the last hurricane come through, busted it all up, blew it over. So he strapped all that down so that it wouldn't fall and bust or whatever.
If you can, remove any dead trees before. We have, I should have took a picture, but right beside my sitting area in the potager garden, a big tree fell, and it missed my potager garden by like an inch. And then behind the sitting area, there's 6 trees
that are on the verge of falling. If they don't fall, we're going to get some in there, take them down when it dries out enough.
Yeah.
But those, in hindsight, we probably should have.
Yeah, they're like leaning on each other. We actually have a bulldozer tying them off to keep them from falling on my sitting area. But if they do fall before we get them taken down,
we'll just deal with it.
It is what it is. We'll get to build a new sitting area.
We did have a pecan tree uproot in the front yard we had to get down, but wasn't no big deal. That was a few hours of work, but we got it cleaned up.
You can use a row cover to cover your plants. I did read you don't want to put tarps on there because all that heavy rain will.
Oh yeah, it'll blow it and make a mess out of it.
Yeah.
I had some issues in my garden. Some things got blowed. I had a beautiful pea crop. They got blowed down on the ground. I think it's trying to come back up. So it is what it is. I'm starting back up. I'm planting some stuff today.
Sunflowers.
Yep.
I had a gorgeous bed of sunflowers. And they just ended up twisting like spaghetti.
Yep.
So I cut them all off yesterday.
And our roselle got blowed down. Our seed crop roselle got.
I think it'll be okay, but it's been a lot harder.
It's like I talked to somebody yesterday that's got a pecan orchard, and I asked her, I said, how bad y'all get damaged? She said, well, a pretty good bit, but she said, we're so thankful. And that's the mindset we really got to have. You know what, a little bit of damage we had is just nothing compared to what some of these people are dealing with right now. North Carolina, and I think about, some of these terrible, I watched some videos of, it's just horrendous. You know, we were so blessed to come through this. But folks, I want you to prepare, not necessarily for a hurricane, but it could be for anything. And we talked about some things here today, and I think there's probably some other things that we may have missed.
Yeah, put in the comments your experiences, maybe what you were not prepared for that you will be next time.
We've done a lot better job in the last few years of being prepared. And look here, I want to say this before we go. Our local emergency response, our local, what we call EMC, our county cooperative, electric cooperative, has done an amazing job. And I know technology has come a long way, but these guys have done an amazing job with their planning ahead on these emergencies and staging and getting out and getting things done. The amount of time they can get out there and get these power grids back on is amazing. And the amount of personnel and equipment and resources they move in just like that is off the chain. There's a staging area real close to our new warehouse in Moultrie. We rode through there yesterday. Had sleeping quarters there, showers quarters. This huge
community set up.
Yeah, community set up for these relief workers. It was off the chain. And this happened just in a matter of hours. He set these things up. So kudos to all that right there.
And a lot of those are leaving their damaged homes.
Yep, coming here.
To go get power for everybody else.
Yep.
So we need to really thank those emergency personnel.
Try to have a good outlook, and instead of complaining, be grateful. I think that helps with your mindset a lot. All right, folks. Thank you for joining. Go ahead. We got hung off.
And if you didn't have any, you got all excited.
Yeah, I did.
If you didn't have any damage, reach out and help those around you that may need help. We're
going to touch on the garden spotlight right here. She's got some roselle.
This is Pamela Couch from Atkins, Texas. She said she has overcommitted with her roselle. I have 9 plants, trees, in my raised beds. Only place to put them to keep the deer away. So it's a Roselle forest. I'm in South Texas, San Antonio area. I've been harvesting beautiful pods for a few weeks. I am so happy with them. I wanted to share.
Pamela, I'll tell you what else you need to do. Save those seeds. Wait till they dry out. Save those seeds for yourself and share some with some of your gardening friends. All right. Old goat drawing. Folks, the old goat's on set here somewhere. If you find the old goat, put it in the comments below. We'll do a drawing. And last week's winner for the old goat drawing is Karen Claypool. Karen, send us your information, your shipping information to
support@growhouse.com.
And Karen, you will be, I'm actually wearing a pair as we speak.
You are.
I'm wearing a pair of Get Dirty House socks. Look at that. Karen, you'll be sporting those around town. Everybody be envious of you. So there we have it.
What about shipping?
Shipping, we're going to be shipping on the 14th. If the plan goes as possible, we're going to be shipping strawberries on the 14th. The little side note on strawberries. I had a conversation this morning with a grower because I was worried about the storm. Everything looks good, but he said the Camarosa variety was looking the best and seemed to be the most disease resistant this year. So we may end up substituting some of the Camarosa for some of the Chandler varieties that's having some issues. But if we do, we'll put it in your box of strawberries you get out. But our goal is to be able to send you the best strawberry plugs possible. It's been a challenging year on strawberry plugs, but everything looks good at the moment, and we will be shipping those out probably the 14th of this month.
Plants.
The brassicas, yeah, we're pretty much wound down on that. Yeah, we're pretty much wound down on that. Talked to the onion grower. Onion plants still look good. They got several inches of rain. They had a lot of damage up there, but he told me the onion plants look good so far. So far, so good on onions and strawberries.
Garlic.
We still got some garlic. If you guys want garlic, place your order on garlic. We're out of some of them, we still got some varieties. I think we still got some elephant garlic.
Yeah, and we were behind on shipping, but I think we caught up.
We've caught up, yep.
Yeah, our workers.
Wonderful crew we got here, yep. All right, that does it. Thank you very much for joining us. Keep these people in your prayers that's still struggling out there. Donate to some charitable organization if you can. Do what you can to help. Thank you for all you that reached out to us. Make sure we was fine, we're good, and we appreciate each and every one of you. And when all this clears up, folks, we got to get back to growing our own food, and you can get out there and get those hands dirty.